Well, hello, welcome to our newest Bible study. This is going to be on the letter to the Philippians. This is going to be the introduction, study 1, introduction. Now, this morning, what I want to do, I shouldn't say morning, because for some of you, you're going to be looking at this in the evening. So with that being the case, what I'd like to do is to introduce you to the letter and also explain why it's important in these very uncertain times. Now, it is evident that Paul wrote this letter from prison. Now, what that prison looked like is speculated. Most people think this was from Rome, that Paul was imprisoned. Some people think he was in a Roman prison. Others think he was in a home that he probably rented. We do know he could get visitors, and we do know that he was chained to guards. But nevertheless, think about that. Writing from prison. The Zondervan Study Bible points out that it is a letter of joy, for the word in various forms is used 16 times in 4 chapters. How would you describe your situation right now? If you thought about what you're going through in everything that we as a world have been going through, would you say that you're joyous right now? At this moment, are you rejoicing in spite of your circumstances? Paul wrote a letter of joy while in prison, not because he committed a crime, but because he preached the gospel of Jesus Christ. He did not let that affect him in the ways that I think most would expect. It actually benefited his ministry, first of all. We'll see that tomorrow or the next day. It strengthened his faith, and it helped him to spread the gospel throughout the world, not just in the area of Philippi, but all around after that. And so what was intended to prevent the witness of Jesus Christ reinforced it. And that's a message, I think, that we need to hear in these difficult days. Now, according to Albert Barnes, Philippians breathes a language of a father rather than the authority of an apostle. The entreaties of a tender friend more than the command of someone that was in authority. And these are reasons as to why I wanted to share Philippians with you. Now, Paul's personal reason for writing his letter, according to the Zondervan Study Bible, was to thank the Philippians for a gift they had sent him upon learning of his detention in Rome. Now, for our purposes, we'll focus on several key verses within the letter. So we're going to do chapters 1 through 4, but we're going to do excerpts of those chapters that are going to focus on these particular subjects that I think are important in these times. 1, how Paul's difficult circumstances helped increase his faith and further the gospel. We talked a little bit about that. Secondly, how Paul encouraged the Philippians to stand firm in the face of persecution and to rejoice regardless of their circumstances. I think that's very important for now. And third, to bind us all in humility and unity, and to understand how to live as Christians in this world today so that we can share our faith with others and help others through their difficult conditions they are living in. There are a lot of people that are living in very difficult conditions now, so I think this is a timely message. Paul teaches a vigorous type of Christian living that is self-humbling, it presses toward the goal, and there's a lack of anxiety in this type of Christianity, and an ability to do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Does this sound like something that might help you through this difficult time? That is certainly the design of this study. Now, let's consider the city of Philippi and some of the things about the church that could aid in your understanding of the letter. Now, according to John MacArthur, Philippi received its name from Philip II of Macedonia, the father of Alexander the Great. When I did a recent study in the church on Daniel, the book of Daniel, we talked a lot about Philip and of course, most importantly, his son, Alexander, who basically put Greece, if you will, as a world power, attached to the nearby gold mines, or attracted by the nearby gold mines, I should say. Philip conquered the region in about 4th century BC. In 42 BC, the forces of Antony and Octavian defeated those of Brutus and Cassius. Do those names sound familiar to you? Well, if you've ever read Julius Caesar, William Shakespeare, it probably does sound familiar. And that ended, by the way, the Roman Republic and ushered in the Roman Empire. Now, these terms should also be familiar to fellow Star Wars fans, people such as me, for in these films and books, by the way, I like those too, the Republic becomes the Empire. Now, after the battle, Philippi became a Roman colony. That made them exempt from some taxes, and it gave all of the citizens of Philippi Roman citizenship. Now, area around there that wasn't true, but within Philippi, you actually had Roman citizenship as if you lived in Rome. Isn't that interesting? Latin was their official language. They modeled their city government after Italian cities, and they had great civic pride. It was a very desirable place to live. And since the Philippians prided themselves as Roman citizens, it was vital that Paul impressed on them the importance of being citizens of heaven. I think that's important for us too. We're going to cover that in Philippians 3 when we get there. His aim was to take earthly-minded, worldly citizens and make heaven their focus. Their future home was heaven. Now, that's a focus we should have now, I think. You may be proud of where you live. You might be unhappy with it, especially now in these times. But nonetheless, I want you to consider this. Where will you spend eternity? We should seek to make the most of our time here on earth, but we ought to be heavenly minded. MacArthur points out that the church at Philippi was the first church founded by Paul in Europe. This was on his second missionary journey, and that's recorded, by the way, in Acts 16, if you're interested in studying more. Now, Philippi evidently had a small Jewish population. It wasn't very large at all. There was no synagogue mentioned at all in the book. That required a minimum of 10 Jewish men who were the heads of their household. So if you had in a community 10 Jewish men who wanted to get together and create a synagogue, as long as they were heads of their household, they could do that. And Philippi didn't qualify. That being said, there were especially mentioned in the letter a group of women who happened to be Jewish, among them Lydia. Lydia was a person who sold and made fine linens. Purple was a very desirable color, especially among royalty. And it's believed by MacArthur that Paul actually started the church in Lydia's home. She was converted to Christianity from Judaism. Church meetings in homes, they were very common in those days. And during this crisis, churches meeting online are very common. Nonetheless, Christ is still being preached. Being a person who is an administrator in both the Cross Keys United Methodist Church Facebook page and Facebook group, I can tell you that our messages are being looked at by 140 to 160. The one Easter Sunday went over 200, and that was the 10 o'clock service on Easter Sunday. So the gospel is still being preached. People are still being reached for Christ. Are you doing that? Is that a part of your day-to-day living right now? Is that something that you're focused on? For me, it's given me the opportunity and the time to do something I can't normally do, which is studies like this constantly, regularly, and I hope it's helping you. I hope it's helping you get through everything that you're going through. But what I wanted to let you know is it's not just being fed during this time. We need to feed others. We need to make sure that we are helping others, our neighbors, our friends, people all around the world. With social media, you can reach a lot of different people. We got to make sure that we're helping them in this time know who Jesus really is. That even though this world is out of control, God is still in control, and we need to let them know that. So the next time that we come on, I come on here for a video, it will be Philippians 1. So go ahead and read that chapter. We're going to start in verse 12 in our study, but go ahead and read the chapter so you get a feel of that. And we'll continue next time with the study on Philippians 1, probably going to be a 2 or 3-parter. I look forward to our time together next time. Till then, God bless you. Grace and peace to you.